Welcome back to the SwimSwam podcast. My name is Ben Dornan, and I am joined today by two-time Canadian Olympian, three-time long course world championship medalist, and recent qualifier for Canada for the 2023 World Championships. It's Javier Acevedo. Hey, how are you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. So, are you joining us today from Toronto? Are you still in Toronto after trials?
Yeah. So I'm still in Toronto, still in Scarborough. So I actually live pretty close to the Pan Am pool where they just hosted the trials. So I've lived there like my whole life. So yeah, still here. It's not that warm yet. So we're nearing April and still not warm. Really need to back off the snow. So yeah.
I'm in Ottawa actually right now, and the train, we have like just a single train that kind of goes through the city. And yesterday it shut down because in between stops it froze because it was like freezing rain and the
Oh
tracks
gosh.
like froze and people couldn't get off the train. So I feel you on the waiting for it to get warmer front.
Yep.
Uh, awesome. So I guess the first thing that we can talk about is kind of trials, 2023 World Championships trials that you just completed. Um, and maybe before we kind of go event by event and kind of break down your different swims, I'm just wondering kind of how you were feeling going into it, if you had any specific goals in mind or what your mindset was going into the meet.
Yeah, heading into the meet, I really didn't have any goals specifically. I mean, the goal was to make the team, I guess, and that way it was a stepping stone. Like this meet, me and Ryan Millette, we came up with an idea of essentially this meet is just a stepping stone. Obviously, we want to qualify relays at Worlds. Obviously, we want to compete really well at Worlds. So it's not to say that I wasn't tapered or rested because I think that gets thrown around a lot. Like, oh, I wasn't tapered, oh, I wasn't rested. I was,
Right.
but I think it was a stepping stone, and I think that there was no specific goal other than just having fun. And I said that a lot last week in post race interviews to other people around me, just because I think we sometimes forget that as swimmers. Like, yes, it's our job. Yes, we're trying to achieve a lot, but just having fun with it, like smiling after a race or seeing, Summer break world records or Josh do amazing things or some really underrated junior swimmers who I think got overshadowed sometimes. Just like smiling, talking to them,
Yeah.
that's what made last week so much fun, and that's what I was kind of heading into the meet looking forward to. So yeah.
So is it kind of, I always wonder, is it different when you go into a meet, a trials meet, where it's not the final step for a season? Obviously, World Championships or the Olympics or Pan Pac, something like that is generally the main goal for the season before you reset and get into another one. So these middle of the season meets where the goal can actually just be to get to the next step. Is that kind of nice in a way to know that your times matter because you need to get under the cut and you need to win in
Yeah.
order to qualify, but knowing that this isn't the end for this season, is that a relief at all, or how do you
It
see
is a
that?
bit of a Yeah, it is a bit of a relief. I think knowing where I'm at in my career, I mean, if I don't make a team, that kind of seals it, kind of thing. But like as well, like I definitely know that I've done the work beforehand that I know that it's just a stepping stone. And I think you see a lot of the top swimmers, like, you see the Summers, you see the Maggies, and okay, give them more time, they will know exactly where to be. And so I think that relieves a lot of pressure off people. But even some people like Kylie, day one comes into the 100 back, like we're all hanging out or whatever before a race. And she's like, I'm a little nervous. I'm like, if Kylie's a little nervous for a race, I mean, then we're having trouble. So, I mean, but I think for me personally, I don't really feel too much stress. Again, I've been doing nationals or trials since I was, I think, 14 or 15 now. So I know exactly where to be. And again, talking to junior swimmers, I mean, they definitely feel like stressed, and you see that on their face. They haven't done this enough times to know, okay, I got to swim this kind of fast in prelims to get on that junior team or senior team, whatever. Like, so for
Right.
me, I feel a lot less stress when I go to these meets because I've been doing it so much and because I know where I'm at.
Yeah. So looking at your events, you had four events: the 50 back, 100 back, 100 free, 200 free. And I noticed that you entered the 200 IM and then ended up not swimming it. Were you kind of planning on swimming it and then just decided it didn't make sense, or like what was your plan, or what was your thought
Uh,
process there?
yeah. Actually, it's kind of funny. So I did a time trial. In it wasn't actually a time trial. It was just like kind of suit up effort. In practice, maybe like before we left for the Fort Lauderdale Pro Swim, and I went at 22:9, 22:8, 53,
Okay.
and that's on the same day as the 2 IM. So I had entered that, realizing okay, maybe I could do pretty well. Ended up actually not having the cut because I wasn't in real time, and then my time from years prior was actually what like not didn't count. So we just entered the 2 IM as something just to kind of like if I really felt like wanting to do it, I could have. But the goal
Right.
was actually to do the 53 on the same day, but it just didn't work out. So yeah.
Okay. Um, Interesting. So looking at your events, I noticed that on day one and two you had the backstroke events, and then on the back half you had the freestyle.
Mhm.
So I don't know, did you notice that you kind of had backstroke and then freestyle, and was that kind of nice to be able to split the strokes up between the two
Yeah,
halves?
yeah. I actually noticed that like I didn't really pay attention until I got into the meet, but like once I got into the meet, I was like, wow, it is kind of interesting. And like, I did notice that. I was like, wow, okay, backstrokes on day one, day two, break, and then freestyles the rest of the way. So that was pretty nice. I mean, it could have been cool if I did the IM, then it would have been pretty much transitions.
Right.
But yeah, no, that was good. And I think the way trials was set up this year, it really set things up really well in the sense that like I had my two backstroke races, day one, day two, and the 50 was on the second day, so I didn't feel as stressed. And then had a day off to relax, like de-stress, and then go race 100 free, which I was pretty confident in. Take a day off, 200 free, something I definitely didn't expect to do well in and wasn't confident in, and then ended up turning out well. So yeah.
Yeah. So looking at the 100 backstroke, I don't know if you consider that to be your main event, but I assume it's definitely one of your main focuses, the 100 backstroke. So having that on the first day, and then we can get into how it went, and you
Mhm.
ended up qualifying for the team. But is it nice to have kind of a main event or like one of the focus events on the first day, or is it stressful not having time to warm up throughout the meet?
Yeah, I think for me, I don't think of it as much of a stress having my one of my main events on day one. I think it's something that's like my bread and butter. I've been swimming the 100 back at that level for a long time since high school. So what was it, 18 when I first qualified for the Olympics, and it was 53.6.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but just having that on day one, honestly, it's a relief for me. I get it done with. I'm at my freshest point in the week. Like I know what I can do, and it's just about okay, let's get this team done. Let's get trials over with. Essentially, like let's make the team. Everything else after that is essentially gravy. We can work with that. Whatever happens, happens. But we need to qualify on day one
Right.
instead of being stressed later on in the meet. So
Yeah. And so I guess if that was your mindset going in, then you were able to check that box on day one because you did end up qualifying. You won the event 53.83, which is I think just above your best time, 53.6. Is that right? That was your best.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so was that kind of where you thought you would be, where you hoped you would be, that like a 53.8 and on day one, getting under the FINA A cut? Was that like around your goal or around where you expected, or did you surpass your goal?
Yeah, I think it was probably around my goal. Obviously, the goal is to go best time. I mean, I haven't done that since I was 18, 19, or my first year at Georgia. I was 53.63, and I think I was 65 back in 2016. So, like the year after, I only dropped 0.02 or something. But yeah, I mean, the goal is to go best time because I know that 53 mid, 53 low is a very elite time still, and still gets the job done for what it needs to be, right? Like, I I kind of know at my point in my life, like I might not be a 51 or 52 competing with those guys like Hunter and Thomas,
Right.
and Murph, but I'm aware like if I can get down into 52, hopefully 52 high or 53 low, that's enough that Team Canada is competitive in that medley relay or mixed medley relay, and that's going to put us on the podium. With how good our other legs are, I think that's all I need, and that's all that Canada's expecting me to do. I mean, again, there's so many good junior swimmers like Aiden Norman who are coming up, and I think and I believe that they will be the next generation of guys to take 53 lows and 52 highs into consideration in Canada. And Cole, Cole's still around, and he's not like it's old. It's just I think he's coming back from a shoulder injury, so I think he still has a lot of potential. So I know where I'm kind of at with my career, kind of just filling in the slot, and then hopefully just keeping it going until whenever I decide to be done. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Um, so then I guess on day two, you had, it's kind of interesting that they do the 100 back and then right away the 50 back,
Hmm.
which must, I guess, be nice to kind of get the longer one out of the way and then get to do the
Yes.
sprint. Um, and so I'm assuming the 50 back you were pretty happy with, considering that it was a best time, which you said might have been a bit of a goal in the 100, and you ended up breaking your national record from Commonwealth Games in 2022. 24:90 was your winning time in the 50 backstroke. So was that, I guess, same question from the 100 back?
Yeah.
How did you feel after that, and were you surprised?
Yeah, I was a bit surprised. I mean, the morning I was so tired because I didn't sleep the night before. I was kind of coming in with like maybe 4 or 5 hours sleep, so I was kind of tired.
Right.
But I came into the prelim session, went 25.5 and was like, and I was slowing down. I knew what I was doing. I slowed down in the prelim because I knew I was gonna hopefully seed first and whatever. Um, and then at night it was just kind of just put the hammer down and try to do what I can. And again, there's still so much room for improvement there. And I think I just again it's about having fun. And I picked a walkout song on my way out. That's kind of fun. And I was able to I had a bet with this the national champion from last year, Loic. I can't remember his last name. If he sees this, sorry, Loic. But if but he won the 50 back last year, and I kind of had a kind of a beef with him, even though it wasn't actually. I was just kidding. But
Right.
um, like heading into this year, I was like, I'm going to do the 50 back and let's see who wins, kind of thing. And I think that was also just having fun, and that's what got me to the 24.9.
Awesome. So do you expect to swim the 150 back at World Championships this summer?
Yeah, definitely. Both of
Okay,
those will be events for sure.
perfect. So then I guess switching into the second half of the meet, which was freestyle, you had a day off on day three, and then in the 100 freestyle, you and Josh, I think, went 1-2. And I think I have it in my note. Was it a best time? It was the
Yes,
first time
yeah, it was
for
definitely best time. Yeah,
flat,
yeah, yeah,
from a flat start. Um, And I know that you've been a 48 and even a 47 on a relay split, but this was your first time getting into that 48 range, which, so that's two best times in a row. And so,
right.
how did that feel to touch second and most likely qualify to swim the 100 free at Worlds?
Yeah, yeah, I hit the time, so I'll definitely. I think I'm going to swim that at Worlds as well.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it felt great. I mean, prelims again felt super easy, felt like strong, felt good. So went into the night session kind of knowing, let's try to race Josh. Like I think sometimes we get caught up in, oh, who knows, but like last year Ruslan took Josh, like I think he maybe beat him or like was right with him. So it's
Right.
it's just about, not being afraid and like kind of just like, yeah, he's gonna take it out and let's see if I can come back. And when watching the race and kind of analyzing with Ryan, I'm starting to come back on him midway in the pool and kind of at the beginning of the first beginning of the second, or I guess it'd be the third 25. It was the second 50, um, but I'm starting to come back on him. And at the end, my legs were starting to hurt a lot, and I started to fade back a bit. But I was only like 0.06 off his back end. So it's about kind of dipping into that 24 range, being able to still take it out kind of fast with that easy speed, and just being able to race him, right? And I think again, heading into Worlds, we have a strong group of guys, right? And I think, yeah, Ruslan was sick this week, so he didn't get to compete, but being able to have three guys who are 48 flat start or 47 for Josh, but and Eduard who's coming up right now, or Finley who's been an established member now, like we're having these group of guys, and I think that's one of the goals of Swimming Canada. We're actually going to Mare Nostrum and doing a camp in early May with a lot of the guys that you've seen, kind of the junior swimmers, some established senior members, to get everyone together and be like, yes, we can do this. We got fourth last time at the Olympics for a reason, right? Or we got sixth last year without, Brent, or without Yuri at his best. So we can do this. We can pull this off. Like, and I think that's the mindset of bringing everyone together. Let's train together. Let's go race. So
Yeah. Um, yeah. So before trials, I was kind of previewing the meet, and I don't know if you saw it, but I did an article about Canada and kind of the progression from, I would say, when Brent was like when Brent won an Olympic medal, and there was kind of a surge at that point, and then in recent years, as you just mentioned, getting fourth in the Olympics and just being, I think, point 0.6 or less off the podium, and then finaling again last year. Um, so yeah, I guess my question, and you've kind of answered it already, but I was going to ask, is there discussion within the swimmers and within the Swim Canada leadership and the coaches who are going to be leading you guys into this summer, like how much of a focus you guys are putting on that relay? Because I think between yourself, Josh, and Ruslan, as you just laid out, who have kind of been swimming on these relays for a couple of years, it seems like you're an obvious three. And then I'm wondering, is there discussion about who the fourth will be, and we have to focus on getting four swimmers who are committing to this 4x100 free relay for the summer. Just yeah, wondering if you can talk about like what those discussions are like in looking at that 4x1 free relay.
Yeah, for sure. I think again, we kind of know who the three are. I mean, we know who's going to be on that relay: Josh, me, Ruslan. And again, the goal is to have a fifth guy because you want to be able to rest Josh or Ruslan or whoever has like a prelim session
Right.
that day. And the best teams always can replace at least one leg, maybe two. We're not as fortunate as the U.S. to have heats of 48s or maybe 47s, but we need to be able to replace one. That's the goal. That's how the women have done it for years. That's how it's done to win a medal. So the discussions, if anything, have just gone on with finding that fourth guy. And last year we had Steven go 48.9. And although he was a little disappointed, I think, with his trials performance, I mean, I hope he isn't done. I hope he doesn't go into a retirement and then come back again like we saw last year. But we have Edouard, who's training in Florida, who I'm sure is training really well right now. And Finn, again, Finn is another guy. He was 48.8 in the relay at Commonwealth Games last year, I think. And so it's just about having that fourth guy who can dip into the 47s. It just has to be, like you can have
Yeah.
3 46s and a 48, and that might not even cut it next year, right? So it's about you need to have 4 47s and maybe a 46. We're going to see Great Britain swim the 100 free tonight, and you're going to see the U.S. swim their trials soon, Australia, all these countries, Italy, like we need to do that. And I think that's the goal, is having that fourth guy. And that's why we're doing these male relay camp initiatives, like I said, in Mallorca and in Mare Nostrum, where we're going to have not just like the fourth guy or not just the fifth guy, but a group of guys who could break out next year or break out this summer, and bring them together so that we can all race and train together.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really exciting. I'm actually covering the British meet right after this, and I think one of our other writers, Spencer, mentioned that the five fastest British men in history in the 100 free are all in the final tonight. So I
Yeah,
guess in
right.
Canada and all around the world, it's a really exciting time for that relay, and it'll be fun to watch this summer and in Paris.
For sure.
So um, yeah, moving on to the last event that you swam, the 200 freestyle. I would say if I had to pick three events that I would guess that you would swim at trials, I would definitely pick those first three. The 200 free is not one that you've raced as much.
No,
I feel like
no.
you've done the 200 back more, and
Mhm.
and you didn't race that this year, but 200 freestyle, 149.9 in the prelims, and then 147.72 in the final, which was a huge personal best. I think the first time under 149.
Mhm.
So what did that feel like, touching the wall and looking up and seeing 147?
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty unexpected, I'd say. Again, I wouldn't even say I trained for that race. And it's kind of, again, something that I think Swimming Canada has kind of low key has told me, essentially, like, hey, you're going to be doing this thing. Like, we need someone who can go fast, and you're that guy, right? And I think they're trying to experiment that with Josh sometimes. Like, I mean, Josh is dipping into like 149, and on a relay, like it's just a relay swim, right? So like last year, that was the reason why I was able to break out, is because at Worlds we didn't have the best relay, and I think even to Patrick's credit, Patrick went 152 in the morning at Worlds, and then didn't even swim the relay at Commonwealth. But I think that really helped his mindset heading into this year, and was a 148. But getting back to my point, was last year at Commonwealth I was a 146, and so being a 147 this year, it was unexpected because it was a flat start, but the way I swum it, I think, was really impressive for myself. Just like watching the video again and looking at the race analysis. And I mean, I came back after the race and looked at Ryan and was like, "What the heck just happened? Like, how did I just pull that off?" Like, so again, it's about getting those guys. I mean, we have, again, I compare the 4x2 relay to Brazil, I think in 2016, because I'm sometimes a swim nerd. But like Brazil in 2016, their 4x2 just made the Olympics. Like that was it. That was their goal. They just made it. I think they placed like 11th or 12th or something. I don't know. But this relay, we may not place top eight, but it's about getting us to the Olympics. If we place 12th, 11th, maybe that next generation can go off like the Brazilians in 2021, where I think they got fourth or fifth or something. Like they're contending for medals now, and that's what
Right.
we're trying to do. We might not win one, but let's put a relay at the Olympics, and then that way you'll see the Paul Dardises, the junior swimmers, there's a kid from TSC I'm forgetting. I think his name is Philip, but who are like 150s right now at junior. And if they can get into the 147s, by the time like next year happens, then we're gonna have a very competitive 2028, and I think that's what Swim Canada is looking for.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's exciting. I feel like, yeah, I haven't focused as much on the Canadian 4x2 relay, but it's definitely like on the precipice. And yeah, I agree. I agree it's getting there. And so that'll be cool to see where you get by next year. And I know that Swimming Canada does put a lot of focus on relays. Um, yeah, just exciting to see what happens there. So um, yeah, so four events at World Championship Trials, top two in all. I think you won three of them. Um, do you know yet what events you're going to be swimming individually, or is that not figured out yet
I
at the championships?
Yeah, I believe I'm gonna do whatever relays they need me to do. So that's really TBD. Like I don't really know yet on that one, but I'm 100% doing 50 back. I think I'm pretty sure I'm doing 100 back, and I'm pretty sure I'm doing 100 free. Again,
Okay.
if things conflict, then we might have to have those discussions. But Ryan and I haven't really talked about that yet. It was kind of just like let's make the team in whenever you can, and then afterwards, if we need a scratch, we can scratch. Like it's not that big of a deal at this point, right? So yeah.
Cool. So between now and World Championships, we have a couple months. So I guess first of all, where have you been training this season? Have you been in Ontario, Toronto, Scarborough area the whole season from September, or what does your training look like so far?
Yeah, it was actually pretty hectic at the beginning. So I finished August. I came back to Toronto, trained for like 2 weeks, and then I went on like a little like road trip essentially to Tennessee for a week to go see my friend Tessa, another
Okay.
Canadian. So trained with them in the beginning of my season. Then went to NC State, trained with my buddy Casper Sikoski. And then I went to Georgia for about 2 days, so I got to actually see how the split program was since I've
Okay.
left. So that was kind of cool.
Okay.
Came back up, did the World Cup. So that was all kind of just like we're kind of just riding whatever we're at. Um, and then I went to Australia with Finley for about 3 or 2 weeks or something before the rest of the team got there for short course worlds. And we trained with Bowley's group in wherever Gold Coast. So yeah, and so that was with like Lonnie, Emma McKeon, Kaylee McHugh, and all of them. And I mean, Kaylee's swimming so well right now, and there's a reason. I mean, I got to watch her go like 28s or 29s for 200 pace, and there I was like kind of out of shape doing short course, and I was going like I don't know 30s. Like I was really struggling. So, but it was so good to be there. Again, Lonnie really was amazing. She actually hosted us sometimes and like drove Finn and I around like to see what the Gold Coast was like, and then we got the race. Um, and essentially, like ever since the new year, it's been here in Toronto or down in Fort Lauderdale training. So January we went to Knoxville Pro Swim, Fort Lauderdale for 2 weeks, back up to Toronto, Fort Lauderdale Pro Swim, and then we were at a taper camp in Fort Lauderdale at Pinecrest for another 2 weeks, and before we just got here. So now for the rest of the season, it'll be like I said, we're gonna go to Spain. Yeah, we're doing training camp, I think, for 10 days in Mallorca. Um, and then I'm not
That's
going to, pardon?
is that in May or June?
That's in May. That's in early May.
May.
So I think
Okay.
May 3rd we leave. And so we're doing, I think, 10 days or 11 days or something in Mallorca. And that's with like a bunch of swimmers. And then I'm coming back here because I work part time for a bank in Canada. So I got to
Okay.
show up to work. But the rest of the crew will go to Mare Nostrum, and then essentially from there it's in Toronto. At least my training will be in Toronto, and then we go to staging camp in Japan. So yeah.
Awesome. So you said you're not competing in Mare Nostrum. Do you have any meets planned from now or then, or will you mostly just be training?
Yeah, good question. I wish I knew. I wish I I wish I knew. Like I assume I will. Probably something locally. But I have no idea. And that's fine. I'm not really stressed about it. I'm okay with doing whatever at this point because I know what I've done leading up to this point is pretty good. So if I can just train and maybe like compete here and there, maybe do some off events or like I said, like I was doing like time trial 50 frees just to see if I can get my speed up. So I think they're like that. I'm okay with that. I don't need to go to Mare Nostrum to prove that I can compete with the big guys. I've done that before, right? So
Right. And you'll get a chance to do it this summer at World Championships. Um,
sure will. I sure will.
so you kind of just touched on a very busy fall where you were traveling around a lot, training in different spots, and um, I guess 2022 seemed very busy for a lot of people. Like even before the fall happened, it's pretty rare that we have three major international meets that people can compete in a year. It's usually one or two at the most. So you're one of those people who raced at the World Championships and then raced at the Commonwealth Games, and then a few months later another World Championships.
Mhm.
And let me see
And
if
the
I can
World
get this
Cups. Yeah, and the World Cups.
and
So
the
that was
World
also
Cups.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it's seemingly like that's like 6 months where you don't go longer than a month without a pretty big meet.
Mhm.
Um, so I was wondering, especially coming out of COVID, which is now started, I think, more than 3 years ago. So
Crazy.
it's a bit of a long time ago, but
Yeah,
obviously having that stretch where people weren't really competing that much and the Olympics getting pushed and all that,
right.
how have you transitioned from that into racing this much and kind of not stopping because after December, then you had a bit of time and did a pro swim and then trials and then you're going to go to worlds. So how have you kind of gotten back into that groove of racing so much?
Honestly, I think I kind of look back at someone I kind of admired. I mean, I still admire her, but like someone like Katinka back in her prime, right? Like the Iron Lady, right? Like she would do so many meets like here, there, everywhere, right? Like, and
Yeah,
I think I kind of take that like personally because now I want to do that. Like I think that's so enjoyable for me. Like I don't know what the rest of my career looks like, but like I really do enjoy racing. Like as much I don't want to train as much as possible. I kind of just want to race because I don't want to I
right.
don't want to hurt during practice, right? So I've really taken that like personally and just like being able to just enjoy it, right? So going to the World Cups, doing just 3 stops, going to this, doing that, whatever. Like this year, I'll have. I think the announcement comes today again. I think for Pan Am. So like I think I'll be announced to Pan Am's, and that'll be almost like a home games for me because my some of my family background is from Chile. So I really want to hopefully be a flag bearer. That's this gets out in public. I want to be flag bearer. Let that be known. I'm putting that
Yeah,
manifesting that, but
manifesting.
manifesting exactly. So yeah, like I'm gonna have a busy fall again, and again there'll be like World Cups here and there, and then if the World Championships in Doha, that'll be cool. So I really love it. I really do enjoy racing. I enjoy meeting people, talking to so many people, and just being part of Team Canada and trying to be a leader. I mean, that's the biggest goal for me is I want to have some kind of leadership role and being able to help the younger swimmers come up and I'll always talk to them or always give them advice or whatever they need.
Yeah, so I think that was kind of leading into my next question, which was the world's team was announced and we were kind of tracking it and projecting it, and then there were a few extra names of people that couldn't race at trials for various reasons. And I think the headline from Swimming Canada was a mix of like veterans and new swimmers or something along those lines. And it really is striking looking at it. There's some people who like yourself and Penny and Catherine, like you guys have been around for more than 6 years at this point. Multiple
Mm-hmm.
world championships teams, multiple Olympics, and then you have a lot of younger people that this might be their first international team or their
Yeah.
second international team. Um, so what's it like to have a team like that with such an interesting mix of experience levels? And as someone who's more experienced, do you kind of naturally flow into a leadership position?
Yeah, I think I do. Again, with the thing with like trying to be a leader is there's different types of leaders, right? Like you can lead by example, you can lead with different characteristics and qualities. And for me, I try to lead by example. That's kind of my thing. Like I'll go to practice, I do the work, I come back, I try to, have fun, like I said, like so that's kind of my role. And again, there's like, the Finleys of the world or the Kylies who who lead kind of like as a figurehead kind of person, right? And there's so many different ways that we're trying to do this in Swim Canada. And I think it's fantastic. And again, you have the youthful people, you have Ella Jansons of the world, you have newcomers who have never been on national teams, or maybe this is their second one or whatever, right? Like this is a big meet coming up. I think I said this in a post-race interview or some kind of interview last week as well, but like this is a big meet. We have to qualify relays, but at the same time, they're the people who will go to Pan Am's as the secondary team who have a chance at the Olympics. Like John Atkinson was talking to me last maybe 2 years ago or something now, and he was saying like we looked at the data, and there were a lot of people who ended up swimming at Pan Am's who actually did end up making the Olympics, even though it was a secondary team.
Right.
So it goes to show that no matter how you make a national team, whether it be the secondary team, the Pan Am's, or the Worlds team, whatever, or maybe you go to Junior Worlds, everyone given that chance has a chance next year. Like you have that opportunity to rep the Maple Leaf. You can go into the next year with so much confidence. And I think that really helped me in 2016, going to Junior Worlds, winning a junior gold medal and silver and all that stuff, like having a lot of success at Junior Worlds helped me have the confidence heading into that trials in 2016 to make the Olympic team. So,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's really exciting to hear. So I think that this question might be an obvious answer, but you are planning on kind of going through next year and vying for a spot on the Paris team. Is that your goal right now, or have you not decided?
I haven't decided, honestly. I think the
Okay.
last time I came on here, I also said I was undecided. And I think for me, I've talked to my old coach Andrew, who now coaches at Cascade. But he gave me some of the best advice, and so did my grandparents and my mother and my father, along with my family, the rest of my family. But like, just take it month by month, day by day, whatever. Like, there's no pressure. I have accomplished everything I ever wanted to. Yes, would an Olympic medal be pretty cool? Yes, 100% would it. But
Right.
I don't think there's any pressure for me to continue if I don't want to. And I think that's why I am so content with if Pan Am Games, because I'm going to Pan Am Games. I'm doing that for sure.
Right.
I think if that were it, I would be content with that because that is a home game kind of for me. It's a coming home kind of party. So I am content with that. But the legacy I would leave behind if we win a medal would also be pretty fantastic. So
Yeah. And I guess the whole question about legacy is interesting also because as you were talking about with the relay, you have been putting in a lot of work to developing the relays at this point. So I guess do you consider it that even if you don't end up going to Paris, and obviously we're not saying that you're not because you haven't
who
decided.
knows? I don't even know.
Even if you don't end up at Paris in 2024 or even in 2 years from then or another 4 years, do you still feel like that legacy that you were talking about as a leader or as someone who's contributed to relays that will then qualify in the future? How do you think about like what your legacy will be on Team Canada and within Swimming Canada?
Yeah, I think I would hope I leave a good legacy and something that definitely people will remember for at least a generation or two. And I say that because I looked back on a lot of people that were, I looked up to, right? Like maybe they weren't national team members. I remember, Hassan Abdel Khalik or some old, very old Canadian swimmers who set the tone for me and like me and Marcus at the time. And I think of that because we were the ones trying to chase those guys, trying to chase them. And then you saw the kind of guys like Cole and Finley and Josh. Let's chase Marcus and Javi. And then there's guys like Lon Kim who are and Antoine Destang, like younger guys who are about 14, who are like, wow, Finley and Josh were doing this at 14. Let's try to reach them. So
Right.
there's always like this legacy that I think every generation leaves behind. And I would hope that mine is kind of, strong. And I think that, leading those relays or kind of helping those relays to whatever degree they might achieve, it's something that I'll leave behind.
Awesome. So I guess that just to wrap up, I just have one question, kind of separate from what we've talked about, but also related
Yeah,
to
no
everything
worries.
that we've
Yeah.
talked so we've talked about multiple meets that you've gone to, two Olympics, multiple World Championships, Pan American Games, World Junior Championships. I'm just wondering, is there one swim or one meet or one moment that isn't swimming, like anything that like sticks out as if you were to remember one thing from your career so far that like that will stick out?
I would say maybe it doesn't. I think it's just a swimming moment for me, but also kind of not. I think just being given the opportunity to go swim in the US, go swim for the University of Georgia. For me personally, that was one of the greatest opportunities I had in my life. Just the friendships, the relationships I built there. I still have so many friends from there, and even if we don't talk, I still hope the best for everyone that that we don't talk anymore with. Just because like that place just holds a special place in my heart, Athens, and again, you see the like I guess kind of a legacy as well in the sense that like you see maybe not Georgia, but a lot of Canadians are now going to the U.S. to achieve a lot of success. And maybe some Canada won't like me saying that, but that's what's happening. And I think as great as the centers are, a lot of people are going to do that, and they see, wow, I get a degree, I get a scholarship, I get all these opportunities that open so many doors, whether that be professionally, athletically, whatever. And that's why I think of that as such a great moment. And that's why I really, really appreciate everything Jack Bowerly did for me. And I'm really glad to have done that.
Awesome. It's a great answer. And yeah, I guess we didn't talk too much about your time in the NCAA, but that was also kind of happening concurrently with a bunch of the meets between 2016 and 2021 that we talked about. So I am running out of time on this Zoom call, so I'll have to cut it there. But yeah, any last thoughts? Anything else?
Well, thank you, Ben, for having me, and I appreciate that, and hope Ottawa isn't much worse for you. So.
Yes, I'm hopefully gonna have some warmer days coming soon. Hopefully the same for Toronto.
I hope.
Well, thank you very much for joining me here today, and thank you to everyone listening. We will be back later this week with the SwimSwam podcast.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.